Hi everyone, Brandon here. I know I meant to make more videos, but been a little stressed out and actually had a manic episode, my first in like 6.5 years. So the COVID stress, work stress, moving stress, which my new place is awesome, but it was super stressful. Wondering if I would get in or not. Particularly because I was told to put in my 30 days notice at my old place, and then surprise, you may not have this new apartment. So that school, and also it was the 7-year anniversary on January 7th of my father's death, so that was stressing me out. Anyway, had a manic episode, but it was only a week long versus over 6 months from the last one, so much less damage. Definitely was still an asshole. Much less abusive though. So yeah. Anyway, meant to make video on religion, and this one I've meant to do for a while, but yeah, it just didn't get done. So this video is about the anime Wolf's Rain, the religions that seem to have inspired it, and how Wolf's Rain is actually a really good transgender metaphor. So Wolf's Rain is a deep show, very existential in nature, much like Evangelion. It has some very cool concepts, although I will say Wolf's Rain suffers from some slow-moving plot lines and some character development issues. But the art and music are indisputably gorgeous, so even if wolf lore isn't your thing, I recommend giving it a shot. It's only 30 episodes, and you can skip 4 of them because they're recap episodes, so even if you don't like it, it's not a time suck, and it's really pretty. It's available on a shit ton of platforms very cheaply. The dub is really excellent too, much like Cowboy Bebop, which, these two shows have a lot of shared creators and writers and other staff. If you're interested in seeing some rare merchandise from Wolf's Rain, check out the end of this video because I have some and will very happily and proudly show it off. So what is this show about? It's about a decaying post-apocalyptic world that has a lot of tenets in common with our own. Many shared languages, technologies, geography, and creatures. Is it Earth? Can't really say for sure. In this dying world, there is a legend among humans that wolves will search for paradise when the world is coming to an end. Wolves are thought to have been extinct for 200 years, but there are a few people who know that they still exist and that they have learned to disguise their true appearances as human to avoid recognition. That usually results in them being hunted and persecuted. Now, these wolves have some differences with the wolves of our world. They are faster, stronger, can apparently jump like 20 feet straight up, can speak to other species, including humans, and it appears they are more aggressive. The North American wolves of our world, although they're hunted fervently as well, do not typically attack humans, sometimes, even in self-defense in many cases. However, since the world of Wolf's Rain has almost no suitable habitats for wolves remaining, there's also very little to eat and places to live or hide, so that could potentially account for some of that disparity. Desperation can cause changes in behavior for anyone. Anyway, this show essentially follows the journey of 4 wolves and the Flower Maiden, who is a girl created by alchemy from the essence of a lunar flower, which, by the way, is a flower that seems to actually exist in our world by another name, the night blooming cereus. It's a flower that only blooms at night in the desert. Who knew? Anyways, this girl created from flowers is tied inextricably to the moon and wolves and can guide the wolves and others who would try to claim her to the fabled paradise. Some humans and the nobles, who are the rich bastards who appear to be potentially alien or otherworldly, join in this quest or get caught up in it, also trying to decipher what scholars and legends have asserted regarding the nature of paradise and everyone's role in finding it. This show is very allegorical, primarily seeming to be Christian allegory, because we see many aspects of the Christ figure in both the protagonist Kiba, the white wolf leader of the main pack of four wolves, and also in Cheza, the flower maiden, which is a really interesting dynamic because it's almost as if this Christ figure could exist in two people. You know, there's some very interesting imagery at the end of the show, which I won't spoil much, that solidifies this. There's some eerie similarities to the Bible's book of Revelation and many shared or inspired themes regarding creation and salvation. Although I'd like to mention that these are not exclusive to Christianity, but also present in the older monotheistic and even some polytheistic belief systems and faiths that either preceded or gave birth to Christianity, including paganism. Speaking of paganism, in the show, a few characters say that the legends of paradise are based on pagan myths, and there are some themes regarding harmony with nature and cycles of death and rebirth that tie in with pagan beliefs as well. Wolf's Rain also has heavy influence from and aspects of Native American spirituality, which I'm going to focus more here on. It's interesting because not only the clothing, adornments, weapons, and house structures of the tribes of Wolf's Rain are very similar to those of different Native American tribes, but their philosophies, beliefs, and ways of living are obviously derivative of them. We see this shown in the myths and legends that make up the basis and pretense for the story of Wolf's Rain. Now, in many of the Native American cultures of our world, you see a recurring belief in what is known as the Great Spirit. What this is varies from First Nation to First Nation. The Lakota Sioux believe that the Great Spirit is a combination of a Sky Father, an Earth Mother, other spirits that control the elements, and the human spirit. Others, like the ancient Cherokee, believed the Great Spirit was one entity and the creator of and presider over the earth. Typically, this creator is described to have had no corporeal form and is genderless, which is of interest to us. Many other First Nation tribes believed this earth creator was a wolf. This ties in with the world of Wolf's Rain, where in the Book of the Moon, the Bible of Paradise lore, it states, "I tell you now the words of Red Moon. From the Great Spirit was born the wolf, and man became its messenger." Later, from the indigenous tribe featured in Wolf's Rain, we learn that their people have long passed down the tale that wolves created humankind. In our world, many Native American tribes believe humans and wolves to be closely related. Very interesting. There's a lot of similarities regarding today's typical Western view of our world and the stark contrast with the ways of the first peoples. The non-indigenous people of Wolf's Rain have also lost ties and connection with nature and their relationship with other species. In this world, that is much in part due to colonialism and the other forms of imperialism that dominate much of the origins of Christianity. I don't mean to dog on Christianity and its present persistent forms, although I could expound on and pontificate on that all day, really. That's another video forthcoming, how religion has impacted my experience of being trans. But we were talking about Christian influence on the mythology of this show, so my little diatribe is mostly relevant. Bringing it back, the indigenous peoples of the world of Wolf's Rain have much more reverence for the planet and other species than the non-indigenous peoples, and their attitudes and beliefs about wolves, paradise, and who it's meant for reflect that. Like many Native American cultures of our world, the indigenous peoples of Wolf's Rain have a lot of respect and admiration for the wolves, whereas the non-indigenous people, including the nobles, have mostly tried to eradicate them by any means necessary. I'm not going to get into the ending of the show or its possible meanings in this video because it would require too many spoilers, but that'll be a later video. I want this video to be accessible to those who maybe haven't seen the show but would like to, based on the themes I discuss here. So this hatred for and eradication of the wolves in the world of Wolf's Rain shares some commonalities with the trans experience in ours. 10 years ago, I was new to my local trans community, and I was telling someone who was once a friend, but I blew it in the worst possible way, to watch the Wolf's Rain DVDs I had burned for him a few months before. He was like, I don't know, the fact that they turn into wolves scares me a bit. And I'm like, they don't turn into wolves, they are wolves. Their human forms are an illusion. Then I said, it's a trans metaphor. Which, have you ever just said something without knowing the thought itself had ever occupied your mind before you just verbally vomited it, but it was totally true and accurate? Because that's what happened there, and after I said it, I started thinking about this realization more over the coming months and years. In the world of Wolf's Rain, wolves have existed presumably since humans' earliest moments, or even prior to that. Similarly, despite protest to the contrary by our detractors, trans people have always existed. The language used to describe us was different, the cultures in which we lived in varied greatly, but gender divergent and non-conforming people have always been around. In some cultures, such as many Native American ones, these people were revered and celebrated. In many others, much of which have been influenced by warped Christianity and colonization, they've been ostracized or worse. While we've made a lot of progress and visibility in the fight for our rights over even the last decade, our people, primarily Black trans women in the United States, are continually assaulted and killed. So why is that, and what the hell does it have to do with wolves? Trans people are not generally understood well by those who are not sharing our experience. Wolves are one of the most misunderstood and hated animals throughout history. Even without referencing the wolves of Wolf's Rain, there are similarities. Why do people hate trans people, and why do they hate wolves? Part of my answer is that they fear us. Humankind as a collective has always notoriously feared what it does not understand. They definitely don't understand trans people. Let me tell you a quick story to illustrate my point here. 7 years ago, many of my friends and I were living in Northside, which is Cincinnati's artsy, gay neighborhood. Since then it's been gentrified to hell, and pretty much none of the types of people who made it cool can afford to live there, but I digress. So in 2013, myself and two of my close friends were out grocery shopping nearby. One is a trans man, like me. He's currently much more masculine in appearance than I, although that's not a particularly high bar to clear, I will admit. But at the time, we were both very androgynous looking. My other friend with us is an androgynous, gender nonconforming queer woman who does not identify as trans, although she gets mistaken as transmasculine sometimes. So we're in a busy grocery store, grabbing our groceries together, mostly, aisle by aisle. We're making jokes about supermarket sweep, generally enjoying ourselves. But the looks we're getting are starting to make me a little nervous. People are looking at us, quickly looking away, won't make eye contact, and scurry in the opposite direction. I'm becoming hyper aware of their behavior and start paying more attention to their reactions. After 5 or 10 minutes, I pass a woman and she's leaning over her preteen child, whispering, "Don't trust the ones where you can't tell." I try not to react, but inwardly I'm like, the fuck? When my friends and I had finished checking out and were outside in the parking lot, I told them what I'd heard. We all made faces, but then we just started laughing because it's so absurd. Like, there it is, their suspicion and uncertainty articulated. You know what it reminded me of, too? Like when you're playing Grand Theft Auto and a non-playable character says something funny but like seemingly random because it's taking out of context as you're driving or walking by. Yeah, like that. To this day, those friends and I joke about that incident. But it reminds me of the human girl, Toboy, the puppy of the pack in Wolf's Rain, meets in the beginning of the series. Upon discovering that he's a wolf, she cries out, "There's something wrong with you. You're not normal. How could anyone ever trust you?" Trans people are not normal. They think there's something wrong with us, and they definitely don't trust us. So there's one way in which this metaphor works. Another way that I think this metaphor is effective is in the strength, resilience, and beauty our people exhibit and embody. I said once when hypomanic that trans people are stronger than cis people. Another trans friend of mine was like, yeah, because we have to be. And that is certainly true. This life requires a durability and power that exceeds that needed of many other identities. However, I personally feel that the strength, resilience, and beauty we exude may be an innate an intrinsic quality. And you know what? I truly do think a lot of cis people are jealous of us. There are a lot of trans people that hate being told that we are brave. Because to them, what they're doing by transitioning is merely a desperate bid for survival. And it's kind of like when I was at a sci-fi convention in Atlanta by myself. This was right before coming to the Cincinnati trans community in 2011. So I'm fighting back a bipolar episode. I'm at the hotel fitness center at 3 a.m. and I'm running on a treadmill. This guy walks by who's been partying and is shit-faced. He's yelling at me, "Hey, that's metal. We're getting trashed. You're in here getting pumped." And I'm thinking to myself, no, this is not awesome. My brain makes a modicum of serotonin and I burn through it all being immersed in huge crowds without my friends. So this is me trying to generate more, so maybe I don't feel like climbing to the roof of this 30-story building and throwing myself off of it like my stupid brain is telling me to. Sometimes you don't feel like being praised for something you're doing just to stay alive. So yeah, a lot of trans people don't like being told how brave they are, and I totally get that. But really, if you think about it, it is pretty brave to defy conventional norms and expectations, not knowing what or who you'll lose because you need to be your most authentic self. I think that kind of bravery is really admirable, and admirable traits often make insecure people feel jealous or threatened. And as for beauty, so many of our people are physically attractive as well. The first trans support group I ever attended in 2011, I was shocked by how many pretty trans boys there were. Until that point, I had never considered dating someone trans, but I quickly reconsidered. Later, I went to Philly Trans Health Conference, and again, more beautiful trans people of all genders. Cis people get really pissed when we make a better man or woman than them. Although those statements are offensive as shit to us, it gets said all the time. Not to me, because I'm androgynous as fuck, and that seems to have limited appeal. I like androgyny, but a lot of people like very masculine or very feminine, or whatever the fuck they think that looks like people. Anyways, a lot of cis people just hate us when we're more attractive than them in general. So yes, people were jealous of the wolves and their strength, and people are jealous of us. A third commonality that I think makes this wolf trans analogy work is pride. Kiba and the other wolves have pride in their wolf identities, even though humans hate them and they're on the brink of extinction. A lot of us trans people have a good amount of pride in our identities as well. But my thoughts on this comparison go a little deeper. So the wolves disguise their true forms to look like humans so people will leave them alone. Kiba originally asserts that wolves appearing human are eschewing their pride as wolves in doing so. But concealing oneself to fit in, don't a lot of trans people do that as well? Sure, some of us prefer to look cis as possible because it's, their aesthetic. But myself and a lot of other trans people have acted or expressed a more feminine or masculine presentation than they actually wanted to, because they wanted to pass, which, many times is to escape notice or scrutiny. When I was first out, like a lot of baby trans mass, I felt I had to butch myself up more to be taken seriously as a guy. I eventually came to the conclusion that doing that felt like being in another closet. And thanks to the influence of another trans guy who is very much like me, I learned to embrace my feminine characteristics too and present more androgynously, which feels more congruent with how I actually see myself. But a lot of us modify our mannerisms or appearance to a rigid binary just to stay safe, just like the wolves. In the show, Hige says, if we look more like them, they'll leave us alone. As much as I enjoy being androgynous and even really feminine at times, and occasionally I enjoy confusing people who can't guess whether I'm a guy or a girl, but there are times I have to be conscious of my audience with my more feminine expressions. I work in an area away from the city that's really conservative. It's Trump territory. So I don't paint my nails and I wear more masculine clothing. Even if I were just stopping by work to grab something, I probably wouldn't wear the kinds of clothing I prefer, like bright colored skinny jeans, more feminine cut shirts. I try to pass as a guy more, not just to get my pronouns, but for safety's sake. I am not trying to get followed or harassed, or my car fucked with. There was already an incident last year at the Kroger by my work where a guy with a Trump Confederate flag hanging out of the back of his truck threw a beer bottle between me and my car as I was walking away from it. I'm guessing he saw my still somewhat visibly queer self. I have PTSD, so that freaked me out really badly. And this is the reality of being trans in most of America. So, if we look more cis, they tend to be more apt to leave us be. So, that's some of my thoughts on the mythology and themes of Wolfstrain and how it relates to trans identity. Someday I'd like to do another video on the ending of the series Wolfstrain and possible interpretations of it. I've actually run a panel at a convention about this series, so I'm kind of an authority on everything Wolfstrain. Not really, I'm just messing, but I do enjoy talking about this series as it's my favorite. But now, as promised, some cool Wolfstrain merchandise and a fan art piece. Prince. These are some super rare drawings by two different Wolfstrain animators. Oh, it's upside down. Good job. This one is of Kiba and Cheza, and it's super adorable. I've always loved them together, although their relationship was never explicitly romantic in nature. I like to think that they would be together in a perfect world. So this print was done to promote the series during a European festival. It was made in Asia in 2014, but at this festival in Europe, it was given away to 250 lucky fans. It was not available for sale then or later, and it was drawn by Toshihiro Kawamoto. And this one is of the wolves in human form. Their style that they're rendered in is much like an original concept sketch, which is neat. This print was done to promote the series also during a European festival, and it was made in Asia in 2012. It was drawn by Tensai Akamura. Again, this one's super rare too, only given to 100 lucky fans. They are numbered, although it's under the frames. Was not available for sale. These were eBay finds, and I might have bought them even though they were expensive because of the mania. But I've been doing really good on my finances, like squirreling. So it's not squirreling money away. So it wasn't too bad, but... And I'd wanted these for like years, so it could have been worse. So this is a French DVD set, French release. So the US releases like DVD and Blu-ray for Wolfstrain. Nothing to write home about. The packaging's meh. Releases in other countries are much cooler. And this one is extremely rare. It's from France. Made to look like the Book of the Moon. Yeah, if you can see, it's hard to see the designs. It's got, yeah, some of the sketches from the Book of the Moon in the show, including one of like Darsha's castle, which is cool. It's got storyboard, and then the DVDs are kind of dispersed throughout, and then it's got like kind of hard to... It's bound really tight, which sucks because I have friends who want scans, but that's just not possible. So yeah, it's got some sketches, which, you know, I've got some art books, but some of this stuff is, yeah, that's kind of cool. And again, with like, there's the Jesus imagery, like, what is that? There was one I wanted to show. Yeah, this one. Look at some of the Native American imagery there. And then it's got soundtrack included. Yeah, it's a really great set with some drawings that I hadn't seen in my other art books, which this, I don't have I have the cover to it somewhere. I don't know where the fuck it is. I just moved. Stuff is all over the place. But this is the most common art book from Japan, Seeking Rakuen. It's got a lot of the same. It's got a poster that's folded in the front, but I didn't want to remove it. And then the art. That one's cool. Sume and Kiba's fight from the beginning of the series. This one's awesome. I love this like alley sketch with the graffiti. Yeah, then the posters. These were the DVDs, and then there's like original sketches, which some of them are kind of funny. And then the final character designs. Here's Cheza, initial concept. Kiba and Cheza. Yeah, so this is a really good art book. There's actually another Japanese art book that I've been trying to get my hands on for years. Muvik, and it's got like a blue cover. I think it's a lot of the sketches that I've got other places, so it's more like I just want this to say I have them all. But that one's super rare. This one you see on eBay a lot, and they're still expensive. It's like over $100 with shipping, but it's definitely more common than the Muvik one. And this is the art book that looks like the Book of the Moon. Actually, the color of the Book of the Moon from the show. And it's part of this set, which is the UK Ultimate Blu-ray release. This won't actually play on any... Well, it'll play on my Blu-ray drive for my laptop. But yeah, this is that side, so Kiba, and it's got these cool cards. That seem to be, well, some of them, like there's that one that was in the art book, and the rest of these seem to be like the original release DVD covers. So that's cool. I don't know what I'll end up doing with those. But yeah, and here's which this is kind of how the US release looks like. But the US release is like a combo DVD, like a 9-disc set. Has the DVDs and the Blu-ray. Anyway, this is the art book that came with the Ultimate UK Blu-ray set. It's got a lot of similar, but some more seem to be in color. The character sketches, well, at least in the beginning, they're in color. Definitely. Oh yeah, there's some of the native characters. Some cool wolf sketches. Yeah, for some reason Toboe looked like Aladdin in the beginning, like before they finished the character designs. Settings. Yeah, the art for this show is just gorgeous. And the music. It's Yoko Kanno, who also did Cowboy Bebop's and plenty of others. Ghost in the Shell standalone, Complex, Macross. I mean, there's I'm missing a bunch. Those are just the ones I've seen. Um, yeah, Wolfstrain's beautiful. That's all I've got for the art books. But there is this. This is a custom made plush. I did not make this. I do make costumes. I'm pretty damn good at sewing. I made character hoodies that have like plush parts, and I design those. Just make my own patterns that people want for free. You know, because DeviantArt people always want artist time for free. Um, but yeah, this one I bought this many years ago. He's super cute. I did not make him. He was an eBay find. But lots of people have offered me lots of money for him, but I'm not selling. Um, I've done Wolfstrain cosplays. Let's see, my first one was Hige, which, by the way, that was one of if it wasn't my first crossplay, you know, when I was a girl, it was like one or two, um, you know, and I actually wore it to a store, and yeah, got you know, male pronouns, and like that should have been my first clue, that fact that it didn't bother me at all, and it was, oh, that's cool. Yeah, no, you're trans. And then I cosplayed Toboy years later. That was a Spike costume. Because the Wolfstrain fandom is a little ridiculous. And there was this creepy pedo-ish guy who insulted my friends and was dogging on cross players and just being a generally sexist ass. So not only did we give this guy so much shit on the forums, really unattractive guy made a crappy Toboy, and I was like, you know what? I'm pretty cute. I think I would make a really good Toboy. And I did. And I had my little plush friend here. And I have a Kiba costume as well. I'm finishing up losing some weight, so I will fit back in that long before COVID is over and it's safe to go back to conventions. Gotta find a Cheza cosplayer. But yeah, the Kiba costume looks pretty good. I'm still picking up some items. The jacket was like half made, half found. Like I found a jacket and then modified it heavily, and it came out pretty damn accurate. But I had this cool shirt that was like perfect. Like I had to modify it a little bit. The white undershirt, it was even gathered at the hem, the waist, like his is, Kiba's is. And when I went to jail and all that, it must have been in my stuff that was in the storage unit that got auctioned off. So it's gone. So I need to find or make another one. But yeah, I actually, a while back, I got a wig commission, because none of the ones I had, like I was styling myself. That's like the one thing I can't do with costumes. I can sew, I can embroider, I can make props, you know, I can sculpt, I can paint, like I can do all these things, but I can't style a wig to save my life, which is why I use my own hair so many times, although when it was long, I could never style that either. So yeah, I actually commissioned a wig for Kiba. That it was not cheap. Nor should it be. Like, just because I'm poor doesn't mean, you know, some wig stylist doesn't deserve to be paid for their time. Like, no. So yeah, when COVID is over, it looks like, I mean, I always go to this convention at the beginning of the year in Ohio called OhioCon, but it doesn't look like, I mean, I think conventions should be like the last thing to return, because like hygiene at these things sucks anyway. Like anyone will tell you, like nobody bathes or has heard of deodorant. So like I really don't trust people to be sanitary. Plus they're so crowded. Like there's no room. So that should be the last thing. So I'm thinking January of next year is overly optimistic. So I'm thinking at this point maybe next summer. Um, so yeah. Um, and I do have more Wolf Strain stuff, but that's just the rare stuff. I have some US releases of things and the manga, which pretty much any Wolf Strain fan will tell you, oh, the manga, I like the art, but the plot, it was like, what was that even? So yeah, that's my video. And I will at some point do one on themes and interpretations of the ending of Wolf Strain. I didn't want to get into that too much. And in the next month or so, I will make a video about my transgender identity and the religions that have interacted and shaped my experience with that. Thanks for watching. See you next time.